Good evening to everyone. I am Professor Deb Roy. I am at the Center for Language Research, School of Computer Science and Engineering at the University of Aizu in Japan. Welcome to this talk. It's a short talk, so I will try to keep it brief within 20 minutes. Firstly, I'd like to thank the Jindal Business School for inviting me to this symposium. It was very exciting, and I look forward to working with you all sometime in the future. I get this opportunity to talk about something where I'm not going to focus entirely on the technicalities of the AI, but how AI will reshape businesses in times to come. So let me get started here. My talk is future-proofing your workforce, how businesses can prepare for AI-driven upskilling and reskilling. So my question is how AI is redefining businesses, because AI is basically changing everything in terms of efficiency of the workforce, efficiency of businesses, how they handle businesses, how they handle their organization externally, internally, in terms of the customer engagement, and finally decision making. That becomes very important. As always. So in any business, these things are of extreme importance, and this what shapes the business. And with AI, things are changing fast. So I'm just going to list a few things where I come from. My background is usability and technical communication. So I deal with interfaces. My focus is on interface design, and my focus is also on how interfaces and interactions design and shapes customer engagement or any types of engagement between company employees and in the industry, and how that shapes the efficiency. So that's where the point of entrepreneurship comes in. So anyways, I will not go into the technicalities of how this is happening, how big companies like Meta, Amazon, Google, and other companies in the Silicon Valley or even elsewhere, everywhere else in the world, are changing their business structures, business efficiency, business working style to enhance customer engagement and decision making. So, some of the things that you see here are AI driven automation. Automation is everywhere as we move from industry 3.5 to 4 and so on. We are talking about how automation can reduce cost, increasing efficiency, and eliminating human error. So that's one thing, because this is I am going to list these points because it's very important to understand what is at stake here. What are the key elements in the business that has to be reshaped, that has to be focused on in times to come? So the first thing is AI-driven automation with robotics in the industry floors, autonomous vehicles, and everything. We are moving towards automation. But with automation, we also need to focus on AI in decision making and business intelligence, because that's the key. Ultimately, we need to understand how businesses will be reshaped. What are the policies that we are going to take for the future? What are the strategies that we are going to adopt in AI in terms of predictive analytics and so on, with advanced machine learning algorithms will help us understand the decision making with real-time insights. So that's what we are focusing on. Then we move on to the customer segment. We move on to the customer experience. Okay, so how AI enhanced customer experience can create hyper-personalized experiences, improving engagement and overall satisfaction of the customer. We talk about recommendation systems. Now we are talking about AI-enabled recommendation systems. So on related note, we need to talk about AI in marketing and sales. How do we optimize and ad targeting? Okay, who are the key elements? Who are the customer segments that we are going to focus on in terms of ads? Automating content creation and improving the conversion rates. So how do we look at that, and how AI can help us do that? So these are the things that basically are at stake. So when we talk about reskilling and upskilling, first we need to understand what are we aiming for? What are the things that we are aiming for? And that's why I'm talking about these points. So next is, for example, in sectors like finance and risk management, detecting fraud. Cybersecurity becomes of paramount importance, which optimizes investments, optimizing investments in the financial markets, automates financial reporting. Financial reporting can be very complex, very lengthy, boring at times. So, how do we automate financial reporting with real-time insights? So that becomes very important. How do we manage predictive analytics with AI so that the investors, different classifications of different classes of investors know where to invest and how to do that? Then we move on to AI in product and service innovation. So, and helping businesses create smarter, more innovative products in terms of design, execution, ideation, everything. So that's where AI can play a key role. AI and human collaboration, and we are not just talking about replacement. We are talking about how AI can assist humans than completely replacing them from the production system. So when we talk about something like cyber physical systems, for example, we are talking about how the software and the hardware engage together, basically, and how the humans play a role in that, right? So now we are talking about how advanced automation and how advanced insights can be built in with advanced machine learning and algorithms in the system. So AI-enabled cyber physical systems is what we are talking about. So AI and human collaboration becomes of paramount importance in such a structure. Supply chain and logistics. So this is very important because in the global business sector, in the worldwide business, it's everything is linked together, and we need to optimize inventory. We need to reduce the delivery time. We need to understand what the demand is going to be in the future. So everything plays together, and it's very important to understand how we can cut down the cost of production, how we can cut down the cost of transportation, and which route to take, how to take, and with real-time insights, of course. So it becomes AI becomes very, very important in supply chain and understanding how businesses can function in that realm itself. AI for business sustainability and environmental, social, and governance. So that kind of ESG things. AI helps companies become more sustainable by reducing waste and energy consumption. AI has the capability to do so by predicting demands for these sectors and predicting engagement of different sectors and making other kinds of predictions along the way. So AI for business sustainability and ESG is something that needs to be studied as well. So depending on the organization you are, sometimes some of these things become more important than the other ones. So these are the things that has to be built in the system. So when we talk about enhancing efficiency, customer engagement, and decision making, these things become very, very important. These aspects have to be understood, and then only we can move into reskilling and upskilling kind of discussions. So that was a summary of where we can focus on with AI increasingly playing a role in the system, in the organizations. Now, the next thing is the economic considerations of AI in organizations. The first thing is, of course, the costs of AI implementation. What does it take for the organization to partially implement AI in their working structure, in the working system, or complete overall and taking in AI as in the system everywhere. So initial investment. What would be the initial investment in terms of the hardware, software, training and development, infrastructure costs, maintenance and upgrades? So these are the basic things that we need to focus on in terms of costs of AI implementation. Then we focus on the productivity and efficiency gains. Automation of routine tasks. To what extent would we capable of doing that in organizations? So the organization has to judge, are they going to automate everything, or are they going to do it partially, sequentially? What are going to be the emphasis in terms of automation and so on? What can be ignored for the time being and taken on later on? So those kinds of things have to be focused on. Decision making enhancement. How would you do that when you're using something like a business intelligence software? How would you build in real time insights? Is it very expensive to do that in organizations as add-ons to the existing business intelligence software, or how would you do that? Would you have your own system to do that? Workforce augmentation. That's another thing. You need to know whether you need more people or are you going to go for reskilling and upskilling kind of system or approach to the organization because it involves a lot of cost. Labor market implications, job displacement versus creation. So that really comes from that point on workforce augmentation. How would you do that? And when we talk about augmentation, we're talking about efficiency augmentation. We are just not talking about increase in the number of people who are working in the organization. So job displacement versus creation, reskilling and upskilling costs, wage effects. So these are the things that are standard understanding that an organization should have. Market competitiveness and revenue growth. So, is everyone doing this? Is everyone implementing AI in the organization? Similar organizations, how are they approaching? How are you approaching things? Is there similarity? Is there dissimilarity between the two systems, the two approaches between competitive organizations? So, anyways, the point is cost reduction. How would you reduce the cost in the long term or even in the short term with use of AI in the organizations? New business models. What would consist new business models for you? Now, that's a whole new discussion that we don't want to get into, but new business models can mean anything, can be very micro to a very macro system overhaul. Okay. Competitive advantage. Do you have competitive advantage in terms of AI implementation in your organization or not? So that is a judgment that every organization must judge. So you're basically with AI in organizations, you're basically monetizing. Okay, it's a system of monetization. Now, how is this monetization functioning? So keeping track of that is going to be very important. Ethical, regulatory, and social costs. Compliance with regulations, bias and fairness issues, and privacy concerns. So how much trust would you have on your existing algorithms? Because existing algorithms, with or without generative AI, is working with historical data set and creating its own judgment with generative AI. That's fine, but where is the bias? Okay, the questions of fairness, the privacy concerns, compliance with regulations becomes very, very important. It's a whole new area of study. Long-term sustainability and risks, dependence on AI vendors, security threats, environmental impact. AI has a tremendous AI environmental impact. Suppose the kind of water that's used to create each token of AI. Okay, it's Chat GPT, and there's a calculation. There's a whole new calculation that you need 40 bottles of water to create one token and things like that. Okay, so the cost, the environmental impact of something like the supercomputing centers where the kind of chips, the advanced chips that are needed to produce this AI tokens, AI chips is humongous. So is it worth it or is it not? Okay, so we have to get so what is the ROI in the short term? What is the ROI in the long term? So we have to uh, keep track of these points over a period of time. Okay, so now getting to the point of upskilling and reskilling for AI, reskilling and upskilling. Reskilling means learning new skills, and upskilling is improving existing skills. The first thing that we have to keep in mind is high cost of AI training programs. Okay, so the AI training programs, when AI is implemented in an organization, the high cost is something that is a concern. Whether all companies would be willing to do that, whether all companies can execute such things. So AI-related training and certifications are expensive. So something like the AI boot camps cost thousands of dollars to organize and run internally in an organization. Companies need to invest in AI in instructors, software, and training resources. That is not very easy to do always, depending on the scale of operations where AI is used, depending on the size of the company, the workforce, the resources that are available, the location, the governmental support, the other institutional support, the kind of employees you have, everything plays in. All right. So the impact is small and medium-sized businesses struggle to afford large-scale AI training programs. That's one of the problems. The next is resistance to change and fear of AI replacing jobs. This is uh, this is a problem. Employees fear that they will be replaced rather than enhancing their skills. So probably no upskilling or reskilling is going to happen, but there will be straight away layoffs. Okay, that is a worry. So factory workers worry that AI-driven automation will lead to layoffs. So employees resist AI training, making it harder for businesses to implement AI solutions. And this often happens because of the uncertainty that's built in the system. So if you see on the right-hand side of the screen, these are the points, these are the difficulties, or these are the issues that needs to be addressed when we are talking about upskilling and reskilling for AI. Lack of AI literacy and technical background, both on the side of the management and the employees. Okay. Shortage of skilled AI trainers and experts. How would you get so many skilled AI trainers and experts? If you outsource it, it becomes very important. So there's a lot of uncertainty now in terms of the company policies as to how to implement something like this. Difficulty in measuring training effectiveness. Okay, how would you measure whether it's the training is working? Because the system is still not in place in many organizations. Okay, in most of the organizations, the AI implementation is a process, and measuring training effectiveness in a micro scale, probably it's possible to do so in the short run, but in the longer run, what is working? Is the upskilling happening the way it was intended? Is the reskilling happening in the way it was intended? So these types of things are not very easy to gauge in the short term. So we have to wait and see for a 10-year period or a 15 years period to see how this has worked, what is the impression or the internal assessment that the company is coming up with. Right now, we don't have any really. In a micro scale, we have it, as I'm saying, but overall, over a period of time, we are still not at the stage when such training effectiveness measure, we can reach a standard when we can gauge that. Rapid evolution of AI skills become obsolete quickly. Okay, so that's another thing because AI is changing very fast. So the skills that you are learning right now, is it going to be obsolete or is it going to stay for a while? So for example, you learn Python, advanced Python. Well, that's probably the base structure on the basis of which to learn algorithms and so on. That's going to stay, but other things may change. We don't know what's going to change. That's another talk. That's another thing. But this is something that the organization has to consider. Their experts will have to research this topic in the R&D as to whether in the HRM, in the human resource management area, how quickly things get obsolete, technology gets obsolete, and how is the reskilling and upskilling happening? So, is it keeping tack with the rate at which technology is evolving, or is it falling behind? So, these are the things that has to be gauged by the organization. Balancing work and learning. So you're working on something, you're handling a regular project, and you're also learning AI, which can be a whole new world. So if whether both these things can coexist simultaneously and successfully. So that's another thing. One size fits all training doesn't work. So, in production, in sales, in automation, in customer engagement, you need different kinds of skills. Somebody may be working on using AI with the recommendation systems. Somebody may be working on AI, using AI for robotics. Somebody may be working with chatbots. Okay. Somebody may be working with interaction design, just getting the websites to be more AI enabled and interactive with the customer. So these are different segments of learning. It's not a one size fits. You cannot make all the employees sit in one room and give them training on something very basic. Probably very basic will work, but the more advanced it gets, the more customized the training has to be. So that's something to be considered. Ethical and bias concerns in AI training. That's very important as well, because there are lots of bias in terms of, because you're playing in the information highway, right? You have to judge what you are seeing. You have to judge the decisions that's laid out by the AI. The humans have to interject. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Lack of government or industry support. That's another thing that has to be kept in mind. Okay, so how businesses can overcome these challenges? Invest in cost-effective AI training platforms. Okay, this is probably a slightly cheaper way of doing it. So with something like Udacity, Coursera, LinkedIn Learning, you get an organizational subscription, and you provide that training through these MOOC kinds of platform. Second, provide hands-on AI training with real-world projects. That can be done with a few instructors who are hired by the organization who are AI capable, AI experts, and they can provide the training in-house. Third is offer AI mentorship programs where experienced employees guide beginners. That's it's easy to understand. If you're already an expert, if you know something, then you are teaching the beginners on how to do that. That is more cost efficient. Four, adopt flexible learning schedules so employees can balance work and AI training because you have to give them time. Okay, if their entire time is consumed in the project that they're working on, then they have the time or the energy to learn something on the side, which is also a requirement, but you're not making it look like one because you're not being very flexible. So that point has to be addressed as well. And fifth, ensure AI training includes ethics and bias awareness to build responsible AI teams. Humans should always be willing and encouraged to jump in and judge what AI is delivering. Without it, it becomes very important. It becomes almost impossible to judge the credibility of the information and its long-term effect, depending on the stakes. So, for example, something like healthcare. In healthcare, the stakes can be very, very high. Something like defense, okay, national defense. So these are very high stake organizations, high stake areas where people work, and AI will of course come in these areas as well. How would you build in AI systems without bias and considering the ethical point of view? So these points are very important when these are challenges that the businesses will have to overcome in the long run. Reskilling approaches, okay, training for new roles. Uh, okay, just a second. Yeah, reskilling is about training employees for entirely new roles that AI might replace or transform. Now, this is the harder part, reskilling. Okay, AI boot camps and certification programs. Offering employees courses on AI, Udacity, Coursera, and in-house training, as I mentioned just a while back. Internal mobility, encouraging employees to shift to AI-related roles. So, example, customer support staff moving to AI model training. Okay, so these things, this kind of reskilling has to happen. People has to be convinced that they just can't stay with the kind of work that they were doing all throughout until now. Things have to change. All right. So if somebody is working on customer support, they have to be trained in using chatbots more efficiently, prompt engineering more efficiently, AI model training more efficiently. Okay. Reverse mentoring. Younger tech-savvy employees train senior staff on AI tools, as I mentioned just a while back. AI and automation transition pathways, designing structured transition plans to move employees from jobs that AI is replacing to emerging roles like AI supervision and human AI collaboration. Okay, so this is very important as well because some things have to be automated, and at the same time, people have to be moved from where they were positioned until now. Collaboration with universities and edtech platforms. This is very important. This is kind of, we are going towards kind of the Silicon Valley model, where there was when the Silicon Valley model started, and even now, there's a very strong collaboration between the universities and the big companies. So, for example, people from Stanford, UC Berkeley, coming to places like Google, Meta, and places like that. So the collaboration, the funding that's happening from these organizations to the universities, and the universities churning out the kind of skills that's needed for these kinds of industries. So it's a win-win both ways, and AI has to be taken in the same way. Okay, so partnering with educational institutions for degree programs or micro credentials in AI related fields. So micro credentials is going to be very important, certificate programs, because the executive programs, because the employees won't have the time to go through a full scale program like a 2-year, 3-year program in AI and so on. It has to be learned in the work, and it also has its advantages because you're adept in a certain kind of industry, you're working there already, and you are being reskilled in certain areas which is related to your work, your field of study as well, your field of application as well. But you're just being reskilled in different kinds of technology, in different kinds of applications. Okay. So upskilling approaches. Upskilling focuses on improving existing skills so employees can work effectively alongside AI. AI literacy programs, teaching employees how AI works, its limitations, and how to collaborate with AI driven systems. Okay, so you're improving existing skills. So AI literacy programs may work more efficiently, probably with more effectiveness than the reskilling. Reskilling, I believe, is a longer term approach, and upskilling is can be made to be a shorter time approach with more efficiency. Digital skills training, enhancing knowledge in coding, data science, cloud computing, and cybersecurity. You may already have some background and your skill is being enhanced. Soft skills development, training in creativity, problem solving, adaptability, and emotional intelligence, areas where humans complement AI, because human complementing AI is going to be more important. Okay, you're not just going to be thrown out of job. You're going to be asked to analyze what AI is doing. Okay, you are analyzing what AI has already analyzed and churned out. So that's what's going to happen. Micro learning and bite-sized training, using on-demand digital courses, podcasts, and interactive training to help employees gradually integrate AI skills into their workflows. So it's going to be a gradual flow with micro learning and bite-sized training. You're not talking about a long-term training. You're talking about something which is manageable, which is short, which is quick, which is fast, which is more effective, and can be implemented right after the training. Okay, so that's how things are going to work with upskilling. AI augmented workflows, training employees on how to use AI driven tools to enhance productivity. Okay, so generative AI. So generative AI would be very good for content creation, AI powered data analysis, and that's what you're going to use. That's what you're going to learn to use generative AI so that to augment your workflow. Okay, so you're creating a table, now you're creating a table with images, with real insights, real-time insights, and more information is seen, is being analyzed right then and there at the same point in time. So it's a super dynamic system that we are talking about. We are not talking about a system which is very static, which is based on something which has happened 3 days back. Even 3 days is a long time in organizations, depending on the field. So, for example, in finance, you cannot talk about data which has happened 3 days back. This is not a policy matter where you're actually analyzing a static policy. It can be a very dynamic field, and the data can change right then and there. So you have to incorporate that. With generative AI, it's possible to do so. So, blended learning strategies. Organizations combine different learning methods to personalize skill development. So, I'm not going to go very deep into this for the sake of time. Self-paced online learning, hybrid training, gamification and simulations, mentorship and coaching with AI support. So, these are some of the strategies, blended learning strategies that can happen for reskilling and upskilling. You can take it both ways. All right. So something could be shorter, something could be in the long run. If it's reskilling, then it may be a longer term issue. If it is upskilling, then it can be shorter, bite-sized learning things, approaches that you can, micro learning strategies that you can approach. Okay, AI-driven learning platforms. There are many LMS which can be AI-enabled to make the learning more productive, more enhanced, more efficient. In the short term, adaptive learning systems, AI customizes learning content based on an employee's progress. So as the employee is progressing, the content that's being thrown out is accordingly. Okay, the system is going with you. The system is mentoring you. You are with the system. Okay, it's not only the system with you, but you are with the system as well. So AI-powered skills gap analysis, which is very important, identifying gap in employee capabilities and recommending tailored learning paths. So if the AI-powered system is able to understand what you are capable of doing, then it can tell you with AI systems in your field, in your area of study, in your projects, what additional skills could be built in so that the gap could be bridged in the short run or in the long run. Okay, so the AI powered system can do that, and you can use the AI to learn AI. Okay, virtual and augmented reality training. This is very important. This is very effective and very engaging as well, creating immersive AI learning experience such as virtual factories, for manufacturing workers. We already have this with something like Microsoft HoloLens and so on, and AI-driven platforms can enhance that. Okay, with more information, with more text-based information, with generative AI, more systems can be compared together. You can understand the problem with more efficiency. So your skill is built in with something like virtual and augmented reality kind of an approach. The skill gap, um, after you do the skill gap analysis, something like a virtual and augmented reality training could be very, very effective. Okay, organizational support for AI reskilling and upskilling, AI skill development as a business strategy. Okay, you have to take it as a business strategy. You just can't focus on the production. You just can't focus on the sales. You have to understand if your employees are not up to the mark, not up to the time, then you really cannot make things happen in the long run. So companies integrate AI training into their corporate growth strategies. So incentives for AI learning, providing financial rewards, promotions when you learn something good. AI and human collaboration frameworks, establishing guidelines on when and how employees should use AI tools. So you should have a guidelines. Okay, it should be like a preamble. It should be like a constitution. It's like an organizational policy on AI use, organizational approach, framework on policy. It's a template that everyone can follow, either one template or depending on the sector that everyone is working. Ethics and governance training, educating employees on the ethical use of AI, ethics bias. We talked about that. So, industry specific reskilling and upskilling trends. These are just examples of healthcare. In healthcare, we are talking about training doctors and nurses to use AI powered diagnostics. Manufacturing, we are talking about upskilling factory workers to work alongside AI powered robotics. We talked about cyber physical systems, and now we are talking about cyber physical systems, AI enabled cyber physical systems with more human involvement, more human interaction. So we are not talking about replacing humans. We are talking about the fact that human becomes more important in complementing the role that AI is playing. Finance, teaching financial analysts how to work with AI-driven risk assessment models. um, you have moderate risk investors, you have high risk investor, you have low risk investors. How can AI enhance that kind of an understanding with something like prompt engineering, something like interaction design on places like Investopedia, where people can understand where to invest, what to do, what not to do, things like that. Okay, retail, training employees to manage AI-powered invest inventory and customer service bots so that they know the demand, they know the supply, they know the logistics, they know how to manage their inventory, they know how to engage with the customer and other stuff along the way. So everything becomes then important. So AI can play a role in everything, and upskilling and reskilling can happen accordingly, focused on these areas that you are. Okay, so a micro focus becomes very important a micro focus and a micro strategy becomes very important when you're talking about reskilling and upskilling. Cross-disciplinary learning, AI plus domain expertise. Instead of training employees only on AI, organizations are integrating AI learning with domain-specific expertise. So this is, as I said just now, for specific areas. AI for legal professionals, teaching lawyers how AI can be used for contract analysis and legal research, for HR and talent management. How in HR you can teach the workers on workforce planning, employee engagement, recruitment strategies. For marketing and sales, you can talk about predictive analytics in trying to judge what's going to be the demand, what people like, what customers like, where to advertise. We are talking about personalized advertising and customer behavior analysis. So this is very, very important. We already do sentiment analysis, and now we can talk about AI-enabled sentiment analysis, customer segmentation, and so on. So everywhere AI has a big role to play, and training can happen accordingly. Human AI collaboration training, decision support AI training, AI supervision roles, human in the loop kind of training. So as I said, that we are talking about AI enabled cyber physical systems, but we are also talking about more human involvement. So employees learn to intervene and correct AI decisions in sensitive fields like healthcare, finance, and law enforcement. So more focused, more customized training that we are talking about. Okay. So help it. So the first one, decision support AI training, helping employees understand how AI-driven insights could be interpreted. Okay, so the interpretation becomes important. So that's what I'm saying, that the role of human becomes more important. We have many people are talking about replacing humans, how AI will replace humans. But there's also a strong counter argument arguing that how AI will complement the use of humans in the system because AI cannot stand on its own. Okay, it has to be judged, it has to be analyzed, it has to be countered. So rationality, to what extent will AI be rational, to what extent AI will be able to ethically use information and churn out further information along the way, and things like that. AI supervision role, so training employees to oversee AI decisions, ensuring fairness. So exactly as I said. So AI as a creativity and innovation tool. Organizations are exploring how AI can enhance creativity rather than just automate tasks. Okay, so generative AI for content creation. So you can read this, training employees on tools like ChatGPT, DAL-A, DAL-E for idea generation, marketing and design. So it's a very productive tool when these kinds of LLMs could be used for content creation. For research and development, helping engineers and scientists use for simulations, patent analysis, drug discovery kind of applications. Okay, for product innovation through design, ideation, for market research, for trend prediction, for prototyping, low fidelity prototyping, high fidelity prototyping, everywhere. So AI as a creativity and innovation tool becomes very, very important along the way, and reskilling and upskilling can happen accordingly. AI ethics, bias, and responsible AI training. I'm going to skip this because I already talked about these things. Leadership and change management for AI adoption. So AI adoption isn't just a technical shift, as I said, it requires cultural and managerial transformation. So there has to be somewhere a change in the mindset. Okay, of the top management and also of the employees. The employees must say, okay, I'm going to learn new things. I'm going to reorient myself. I'm going to rediscover myself, and the management has to say, okay, I will bring in more literacy programs, more change management strategies, okay, and I'm going to reduce the fear of job loss and encourage more AI assisted work for the employees. So AI workforce strategy alignment, HR and business leaders collaborate on long-term AI talent development and hiring strategies. So this is something that has to be done. So the HRM has to strongly coordinate with the top management to understand what kind of AI policy, what kind of AI training policy has to be adopted for the organization in terms of the reskilling and upskilling. These two are different things. When you're reskilling, it has a wider connotation, it has a wider investment, it is a more long-term investment because people are learning something new. They're just not upgrading themselves, they're learning something new. And they may go on to a new sector altogether, a new kind of application altogether, handling new kinds of projects with the AI learning. When we are talking about upskilling, this is more about acquiring skills based on the kind of background you already have. You are upgrading yourself on the same line. So upskilling is uh, more of a vertical shift, where reskilling can be more of a horizontal shift along the way in the learning domain, all right, in the learning spectrum. So this is something that we have to consider as well when we are doing upskilling and reskilling. AI-enabled career pathways and personalized learning journeys. So as I said, some of the points: AI-driven employee assessments, micro-credentials and AI badges, and AI-powered career guidance. These are all things that should be part of the human resource management's policy when focusing on employee roles, interests, and career goals, and customizing the learning experience accordingly. Continuous learning structure and AI mentorship networks to sustain AI transformation. Organizations are shifting from one-time training to continuous learning ecosystems. Yeah, that has to be done because AI is changing very fast. New things are coming. So until now, we were talking about AI. Now we are talking about generative AI. We are talking about robust learning management systems. We are just not talking about machine learning. We are talking about how the machines are learning on their own, how they're learning their own systems and how they're generating their own images. They're seeing correlations, they're seeing cause and effects that were not very evident when we were talking about a structured AI. So it's going beyond historical data. So the learning has to happen as a continuous process because every sector is evolving, every learning domain is evolving. AI is adopting to that, and the training program has to adopt. The AI mentorship program has to adapt to that kind of evolving structure that's in place all throughout. Okay, so a custom AI training labs and centers of excellence. I'm not going to go through very deep into this. You can see what it is. You have to have centers of excellence, AI labs for hands-on training, training with AI models, automation tools, and generative AI in controlled environments. So, and then you have centers of excellence, which can have an organization-wide AI integration. So finally, we are talking about AI-driven reskilling and upskilling roadmap for organizations. So AI-driven reskilling and upskilling roadmap for organizations. Phase one, we are talking about assess and plan. Okay. You can see phase one involves conduct an AI readiness assessment, define AI skills priorities, create an AI reskilling and upskilling strategy, secure leadership buy-in and the budget. So you're basically assessing what you need in an organization and you're planning accordingly. Second phase, you're developing and implementing. Okay, what do you need? What kind of LMS you need? What kind of AI enabled systems do you need in place, in-house or outsourced? Learning platforms and tools, launching AI training programs, offer personalized AI learning plots. Some of the things that we talked about, encourage cross-functional AI collaboration. Okay, so what kind of collaboration you need between different departments? So the implementation and the development of AI training has to be built in place. And finally, in phase three, we are talking about integrating and scaling. Embed AI skills into daily workflows, whether it's working in real life, measuring and optimizing AI training effectiveness. Okay, and scale AI talent development organization wide. What you learn, to what extent can you teach it? Can you use it organization wide in different sectors? Are the skills very customized to the specific field, or is it very robust and could be scaled out to many areas of application? So this is how things are going to work. AI-driven reskilling and upskilling. That's how things are going to work, I think. So in conclusion, the AI era is driving a shift from job replacement to job transformation. I think that's going to happen in the long run. Of course, there will be fear in the short term as to many people will lose manual work at the lower end of the organizations. Many people will feel that they will lose their job. But if the company has a proper policy in place in terms of upskilling and reskilling, such job loss could be stopped. Some job loss would be more of a fear than the actually what's happening in the real world. So that's what's going to happen in the long run, I think. So AI-driven reskilling and upskilling aren't just about adapting to automation. They're about creating new opportunities. So basically, when you're doing a reskilling and upskilling, you're creating new opportunities where humans and AI can complement each other. So organizations that invest in AI talent development will stay competitive because they are opening up new opportunities. Okay, they will future-proof their workforce and they will drive innovation because driving innovation is just not about the product, it's just not about the design, it's also about the training the workforce. How well you're able to get a workforce which is very efficient in this AI era. Okay, so that is something that has often been overlooked outside the realm of HRM, human resource management, but that's something which is of paramount importance and that has to be focused on. Okay, and finally, organizations that proactively invest in reskilling and upskilling will not only retain talent, but also create a more adaptive and competitive workforce. And also, not only the workforce, it's also in terms of the idea generation. It translates to product, it translates to better monetization, it translates to better sales, marketing, customer engagement. It has a wider implication. It's just not about reskilling and upskilling. You are just not getting a workforce which is restricted to getting the skills. Those skills translates into job efficiency, and that means monetization of your organization, better efficiency, better sales. Okay, so That's why this topic is so very important. It's just not about future proofing the workforce, it's about getting a workforce that will keep your company competitive in the longer run. Okay. So, thank you very much.